All right. Hello, everyone. It's auto asphyxiation. It's Lark and
Kimberly.
yes. And today we're having an exciting day. Every day is exciting, but this week we're being very New Jersey centric, and we're actually going to be talking about. We're not necessarily talking about the New Jersey Bike Walk Summit, but that is kind of inspiring our conversation because we have both been situations where we're not driving cars and we want to get around New Jersey, which is the densest state, the most dense state in the Union or in the United States. But our public transit, while we can get to Manhattan relatively easy, getting around New Jersey itself is very, very challenging. Like I can hardly get to your house, Kimberly. We live like a mile away from each other, right?
We do. We live a mile away from each other, but to drive it would take like 20 minutes
Yeah.
just because of all the traffic. I mean, give or take, it depends on what time of day.
Yeah, and the
Um,
bus is just like I don't know if I can how would I don't think we could get to each other via public transit, right? That
no, the bus would be very difficult. It would take like three buses. I looked it up one time.
it would take us 3 hours to get to each other. We're a mile away from each other. We're in the same county. It doesn't make any sense. It's like you can't get there, and it's really really bizarre. And also, bicycling would be challenging because of the way the streets are set up. And so we're very kind of like, that's really interesting. So New Jersey Bike Walk Coalition is kind of like the organization that we have in New Jersey that deals with various issues. And we're not talking about New Jersey Bike Walk in a way of like critiquing them. We're just talking about New Jersey. They inspired this conversation because they're having their summit on the 29th. And one of the big topics of their summit was the Greenway. And that was last year. They talked about the Greenway a lot. And you're like, what's the Greenway? Because, how would you know? Everybody's know what that is. A lot of people who are in urbanism, they know what it is because it's like we talk about all the time. But what is it? Okay. In 1983, rail banking was established as an amendment, Section 8, to the National Trail System Act. It's a voluntary agreement between railroad companies and a trail sponsor, such as a trail organization or a government agency, to use an out-of-service rail corridor as a trail until a railroad might need the corridor again. On September 15th, 2022, Governor Phil Murphy, who is our governor, and yeah, is our governor, announced that I want to somehow mention St. Patrick's Day, but I don't know how to like mention that in a weird like a way that doesn't sound bizarre. I'm like, oh, like
ha-
Phil Murray.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, and happy St. Patrick's Day to our Irish governor, Phil Murray.
Yes, exactly, exactly. That's what I want to say that in a way that was like respectful. And
And
announced that the state of
real
New Jersey.
Irish. Real Irish, by the way, I just want to add real Irish bow to no kings and do not tolerate occupation.
Exactly. That is very true. That's like the whole like I'm always kind of like, okay, Ireland, that's gonna be step two if things don't work out here. But I'm sure things will work out here. Anyway, so September 15th, 2022, Governor Phil Murphy announced that the state of New Jersey had officially acquired a former rail line and will be converting it to a massive greenway, which will stretch from Essex County to Hudson County. This would almost 9-mile linear state park, which would start in Montclair and run to Jersey City, will serve as a recreational path for bikers and walkers, as well as provide necessary green space. And this is from that Montclair Girl blog. She writes for the Montclair Local. Um, and while, as you know, I'm very into cycling. I always wear my little bicycle necklace, and I ride my bike to my job in New Jersey at a college that will not be named. I am very into to cycling. So me saying these things that I have some critiques, and I say this with love because I want to be more places to bicycle, but at the same time, I'm like, how is okay? Anyway, I'm going to bring this up. I'm going to bring up this one conversation. So Mayor Eric Adams, like I guess a few years ago, announced that he was going to spend $35 million to help convert an unused train track in Queens into a park. And then a plan critics say could prevent restoring the transit to the area. So this ripping up of tracks and turning it into parks to me just feels really like ooh, why would you do that? Especially in areas that are like essentially, they call them transit deserts, but I hate that word. I like the fact transit apartheid. Deserts are beautiful. Why are we using that to like talk about things that humans do that are awful? So I call it like transit apartheid. And essentially, Jessica Ramos, a representative out of Queens, was like, "This is a big mistake. There's no reason we have to choose between public transit and green space." And she said, "Honestly, I don't think the city should be making any of these decisions without like a more vigorous debate." So, with that, I'm kind of, what are your thoughts, Kimberly, in regards to like bicycling? And here's the thing, I feel weird because it's like we're talking about bicycling versus trains, and it's kind of like we're still putting all this stuff on cars. Like we have all this road for cars. Why are we competing for space between the trains and the bicycles? Like, what do you think about all this?
I think it's a little silly to, like you said, to have that competing space. I looked up the Greenway project, which I think is a great project. I think it's expansive. I think it's beautiful. Um, and it mentioned about commuting, that it could be used for commuting as well from all the 8 different municipalities that it connects, which is possible, is definitely possible. But why are we rerouting bicycling commuters when we have the necessary space in our cities? It's just taken up by cars parked on the side of the street.
See, that's my whole thing. I don't understand why Bloomfield, which was literally the reason why Bloomfield Avenue, which is famous for people who are outside of New Jersey, if you watch The Sopranos, they talk about Bloomfield Avenue and they show Bloomfield Avenue. It's famous and it's huge. It's a huge wide street, like 4 or 5 lanes, and it goes like it essentially goes through the entire bit of Essex, like Bloomfield, Belleville, View, Newark, Montclair, Verona, and you could, number one, you could put a trolley there. You could easily put a bike lane there. It's like, for me, I'm just like, why is it there's this idea that I want to ride my bike through a park for commuting purposes? Now, here's the thing. If it was just like, oh, we're gonna do a park and we have fun, okay, fine, whatever. But when they tried to say it's a commuting option, that to me is wild. Like, what? That's what?
Because, like you said, Bloomfield Ave. I talk about Bloomfield Ave with my husband and my stepson all the time because it's such a main thoroughfare. Bloomfield Ave, my dream would be Bloomfield Ave having no parking on it whatsoever. There are plenty of side streets and little parking spaces, little parking lots all along. It would be wonderful to have bike lanes and down the center, a light rail. Wouldn't that be wonderful in Essex County? That would just connect everybody.
And that's what I'm kind of wondering. I'm like, why do we not have a transit or why aren't we advocating for that? I feel the amount of time spent on the Greenway. Number one, the way New Jersey is set up, the Greenway is not a county road. Clearly. So each municipality is going to have to go, do we want to be part of it? Do we want to be part of it? How do we want it to be set up? Because the way essentially New Jersey is set up very much like it's like state rights, but it's like city rights. So each city, so the amount of time it's going to take for that to get done, it's never going to get, if you've ever been to New Jersey, the arguments, the fights, the trying to get everybody to be like, oh, okay, we're going to all do the same. That's not going to happen. It never happened. That's literally a pipe dream. It almost feels like it's a thing to make it so that we can make sure we can never put a train there again, which, what? We're going to pull up the rails? Okay, let me stop. Because I don't want people I don't want people who are working on that to feel sad. Because, like, wow, great job. But at the same time, Bloomfield Avenue is a county road. Because that's why they always say, we can't do anything. It's a county road. Cool. That's great. It's a county road. That means we can decide to do something on that county road. Like we could get Essex County to put like a bike lane, to put like a light rail on it. That would help. If it's like, that's the whole thing. All these arguments like, we're helping working class people, we're helping poor people get to work. Guess what? You putting a light rail, putting a bike lane, a protected bike lane, not some paint, on Bloomfield Avenue is going to help way more working class people, way more poor people than you putting a bike through essentially parts of this of Essex County, which are like a swamp. Like, where are the Meadowlands? Like, I'm not riding my bike through there. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
So, and you know, and I've worked with a lot of different kinds of working class people, and if you have not grown up around wildlife, you don't like wildlife suddenly running out at you when you're riding your bike. Like, I used to work at a nursing home, and the smoking area was like backed by the woods, and I don't care about wildlife. I'm not scared at all. like if you clap, the bears will go away. I swear to you, they will. And like, the people that I worked with were like, "You're crazy." And I'm like, "Why?" And they're like, "There's a skunk 5 feet away from you." And like, I'm like, "Yeah, he's staying 5 feet away from me." I said to him, "You stay over there, I'll stay over here." But like, I'm used to wildlife. I grew up in the woods.
Well, wait, you said bear. What?
Yeah.
I was like, what? That's a bear. A bear is a potential? That's the whole thing. I don't have time for that. I want to be on the side. I want to be on like the main street. First, it's like, okay, you got these side roads we can go up. So like, you have these situations, bike situation, where I got to go way up a side road and way up a hill because I need to make it convenient for people to go up Bloomfield Avenue. Oh, okay, now I got the option. Instead of like you working on that, you're working on this Greenway thing. I mean, and then another thing, you know, and here's the thing, like I said, I appreciate that. That's great that you guys are working on that. But at the same time, like, if your whole thing is this is for people who are working class, this is for poor people, like, that's where I call a little bit of BS on it. Like, if it was just like, it's for like middle class people who want to have fun and ride their bike, fine. I could agree with that. But if this is for like working class people, come on now, give me. I mean, and that's the whole thing. We're supposed to act like that's not like we're supposed to act like that's normal. Like, oh yeah, like that's happening. Like, people are gonna be riding their bike through a swamp. Like, that's, and again,
Through the woods.
I feel bad because I don't want people to feel badly about what they're doing, but I'm also very frustrated with this. You know, and and when I was in LA, we had the bus riders union, and people always thought I was part of the bus riders union because the bus riders union was very much like, we want to have free transit. We want to have free transit. And I was just like, we're not going to have free transit. And this is like, to me, this is theater, performance theater. And instead of working on having better transit, you're working on this. And here's the thing. I want to say this. Bus Riders Union did do a great thing. They had the consent decree, and owing to that, it did make the actual public transit service work better. So if we were to do some kind of consent decree in New Jersey where it made it so that the buses had to be on time, the light rail had to be on time, and it was weird. You know that the reason why I know the consent decree worked was because as soon as the consent decree was gone, the buses stopped working. It was so weird. It was like, oh, policy does work. It's amazing. And I would rather, especially too, for like people who are like working class and like poor, you know, we've been in situations where you have to drive to qualify. Like, I think sometimes people who are middle class don't understand that sometimes you are too poor to not have a car. Like, I think that is something that people don't understand. Like, because go ahead.
No, they don't understand it. They don't understand being too poor to like get yourself out of being poor. You know, it's like, I saw like something years ago that was like, why don't you just buy the more expensive boots, the $200 boots, work boots? They will last you longer. Okay, but I don't have the $200. I have $50. So yes, I'm going to have to buy those $50 boots 5 or 6 times over the course of the lifespan of the $200 boots. But it's the investment, and people don't, there's such a disconnect.
No, yeah, it's true. It's kind of like this. You could live so far away from transit that works. You have to buy a piece of crap car. And the car, a lot of times they have subprime loans, which means, you know, the subprime loans they have with the houses, well, they're selling subprime loans to people who are poor with cars. And so essentially, because our public transit is so awful, people have to buy cars that they buy with subprime loans. And so to me, I feel like it would be better worth people's time to advocate for more infrastructure, to more for more projects to like make the buses run better, to extend the light rail. Like the light rail could be extended. The light rail is by my house, could be extended to go into East Orange. It could be extended to go you know, down like to Wauwatosa. It could be, I mean, we could have light rails all over Essex County. We could have a light rail that goes all the way into Patterson. The light rail that's by my house was supposed to be going to Patterson. This would be something that would really actually help working class people. Like the amount of time you're spending on don't raise public transit. Okay, yeah, that's great. But a lot of people, like if you were in South Newark, accessing public transit is really hard. If you're in central Newark, where it's like downtown, or you're by the museum, the library, it's like really easy to access. But if you're in South Newark, if you're in like some parts of East Orange, if you're in some parts of Irvington, you are not easily accessing this public transit, and you are almost like, if you want to have a job and keep that job, you're gonna have to get yourself a little piece of car. And this is really, I think, the thing that frustrates me. If you advocated for better public transit within like the urban parts of the city, not in the parks, you would actually be helping. And like I said, I am so sorry. I hope people don't take this in an offensive way. I'm not trying to be offensive. I feel like, you know, we have the density in New Jersey, especially in Essex. There's a density. There is people every time I'm on the bus, it's crowded. No matter what time of day, I'm shocked how many people are on these buses in Essex County and New Jersey Transit. I was like, why aren't there more buses running? This is just wild to me.
We could have both. It's not even so much that like, don't do it. Or this is a waste. Like, it's a beautiful project, and it's a way to use infrastructure in a way that promotes recreational activity and promotes green spaces. Green spaces are very important, but we can have both.
Exactly. We should have both. And I think that's the whole thing. It's like, let's not try to use this as a way to not have a conversation about something else. Let's try to be like, you know, oh, well, we don't need a bike lane because we have it here. How about we have the bike lane here in the Meadowlands, and we also have the bike lane on Bloomfield Avenue or Passaic? Like, why does it have to be either or? And also too, just, you know, I think about, you know, subsidizing, and I think about how in the trains, how the trains are better, are actually well, of course they're more subsidized. The trains are more subsidized than the bus, and the buses are kind of like, well, you make your money back, you get more of a fare box return with the buses. So why are we punishing the bus riders when it's more profitable? I don't understand. Why are we and you know, it looks a little racist to me. It looks a little racist when I get on the bus and essentially, you know, like I remember one time and I'll put it this way, I never see like white men on the bus. Like I never ever, like one time I had my husband on there with me, and he was like, it was kind of like, oh, like it was, you know, they were kind of like, oh, what are you doing here? Are you the supervisor? Are you the boss? Like, what's going on? And you know, the train, and it was weird when I was on the train. When I go with him on the actual heavy rail, they never ask for our tickets. But when I'm by myself, they're like, hey, give me your ticket. I'm not saying they shouldn't ask for your ticket, but I'm saying it was just interesting, like how different, like, oh, they were just kind of like making sure you're not the riffraff. And I'm like, well, why would I be the riffraff? Well, I know why would be the riffraff, but why would I? What's going on? What did I do?
Why wouldn't your husband be the riffraff?
Exactly. Yeah, he's a Wisconsin riffraff. No, I was kidding. I'm not even like you said. It's I'm trying to be, like you're right. It doesn't have to be a either or. But also too, we really need to think about if this all about, I think the whole thing is that, I don't like being gaslit. And it's kind of like, if you're about working class people, if you're about poor people, if you're like, oh, we're doing this project to help. Well, if you're doing this project, I'm going to tell you what people who are working class and poor actually need. They actually need like an actual like light rail that goes from in the we call it I want to call it the eastern sections of Essex, because Essex is pretty segregated. So essentially, we need public transit in the parts of Essex that are predominantly African American and Latino. We need that would be helpful if this is all about that. Maybe it's not about that, but if you're going to use that, if you're going to bring up like Black people, like we care about underserved people, if that's your thing, then I'm going to tell you the thing that people need in those communities, or the thing that just working class people. We're not going to say it like, we don't have to even use cultural, but just like working class people. What do working class people need? When you were taking the bus in the desert in California, you needed, like, what do you can go. I know you talked about that before, but just go into it a little bit more.
I needed a shade at my bus stop. I needed a shade at my bus stop and maybe a slightly shorter commute. But I mean, really, I only had one transfer. And the transfer like layover time was like maybe 10 minutes. It was an accessible way for me to get around, especially as a young woman.
Well, I thought about the fact that like there's a bus that's by my house and it's literally by a dumpster. There's no seat, and it's by the dumpster, and it's by like a fast food joint and by a dumpster. So people are sitting there, just standing by by a gigantic dumpster. And I'm just kind of like, we could do better than this, right? We could do better than this. We're a rich state. We could do better than this.
Isn't there zoning like where like a bus stop, as far as like, like that much trash, like that's I would see that as a public health concern.
Well, here's the thing. Apparently, bus stops and like things like that are set up it's by city. As I told you, like that's the thing about it. It's like, so the cities get to decide where the bus stops are. So there may be somebody who's kind of like, well, we don't want people to be comfortable by our house because we don't want people to stand at the bus stop by our house. So essentially, we will make it so it's as unpleasant as possible so nobody will stand at that bus stop. And I think, wow, because I mean that's true. I actually called somebody and I was like, why do some places have bus stops and some stops don't? And they're like, oh, it's city by city. So it's not the county or the New Jersey Transit that decides there's a bus stop should be there. It's the cities that decide if there should be a bus stop there. So apparently my city, a city that essentially also is not part of like this conglomerate of libraries, and I mean, it's a whole bunch of stuff that my city does that's really interesting. Like they have like Montclair, like East Orange, Newark have free childcare. They're part of this conglomeration that gets free childcare. Where I am, they're not part of that, which I thought was interesting. An interesting little.
And that's yet another reason why Essex needs to be an entire city and not just not a county broken up into all of these little cities. Because
because I know what they're doing. They think that they're slick, but I mean, we're not going to get into that right now. But I know what they're doing. It's not cool. But I mean, this is, I mean, and this is the thing. I mean, we're kind of talking about like all these things that could be happening in New Jersey, and and even thinking about like things in regards to like the bus, in regards to how it runs. If you're like we call it a primary caregiver of children and things like that, the buses run really well in during a rush hour. But women, they do a thing. Women primary caregivers do, I guess I call it trip chaining. So they'll drop their child off at childcare, then they'll go to the grocery store. Then they'll go pick up a prescription. Then they'll go, I don't know what they do. I don't have children. But no, it's called trip chaining. But that's this whole thing. This is one of the problems. There are so many people who are like me who don't have children. and we are in urban planning, and they're like, well, you're a woman, so you should know. And it's like, actually, I don't know. I don't know because of the way, how sexist this system is set up. It's like you don't see women between like essentially childbearing ages. So between like 25 or 30 to like 50, you literally don't see anybody. Like, I think like, I don't know about you, but I literally didn't have any friends that were my age after my friends started having kids. And like,
Oh
I don't,
yeah.
now people are popping up because their kids are like 18, so they're popping up again. But like, until then, I was like the only woman there, like the only woman in all kinds of stuff. And they were like, what do you think is a woman? And I was kind of like, 80% of women have children. I don't think I'm the person you should be asking, but I always was kind of surprised at the women who would be like, let me tell you. And I'm like, you're not
You
like,
don't know.
you don't even know. Why are you talking?
It's a reason why a lot of my friends are younger too, because they don't have children, or they're not to that age yet, or they haven't decided to yet. So
no, this is all. It's all to do with public transit. It has to do with like urbanism. It has to do with all this stuff. Essentially, because the way we have how the suburbs set up, we have public transit set up. People who are primary caregivers can't even leave the house because they essentially are too busy. They can't leave the house because it's too hard for them to get around. And also too, even like I have friends that are guys that have children and they have partners, they have wives. They're like, I'm riding my bike. They're like, oh, I'm into riding my bike. I'm like, does your wife ride her bike? No, she doesn't. She can't because of the way that the roads are set up, the way transportation is set up. And that to me is just wild and unfair. I'm like, how, if you're riding your bike every day and you've been doing that for 20 years and your wife, the person who's taking care of your child, can't do that because of, why aren't you advocating for that? I always thought that was really interesting. Like, how could you not advocate for the fact that your partner can't do what you do because they have a child, and you're not even advocating to fix that?
yeah, it's like over their head, like, oh no, but she can't do that.
Yeah, and there's no concern because it's almost like this. All these things in regards to urbanism is set up for men. Not only that, not only just men, it's set up for men who have professional jobs. It's because it's like, not men who are working like 5 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning. It's set up for men that have the extra income and also power where they can show up late or show up like, oh, they can ride their bike to work, and they can like take a shower. They can do all these things. It's not set up for like regular people, who, it's not set up for working class people. It's not set up for people who are not cisgender men. It's not set up for people who don't have a traditional 9-to-5 job. It's not set up for people who are not professional. Everybody else is almost like, even like when the bus runs, if you have a job that starts at 3 o'clock in the morning and you want to take public transit, that might not be able to happen. Like, because I know like the light rail that's by my house right now, it actually runs really well for me because I do have a pretty traditional schedule. But the light rail by my house stops running at 12. So if I had a job that started at like 3 in the morning, like worked to 3 o'clock in the morning, I couldn't take the light rail because it doesn't run. So this is like, it's all set up for professional people who work in Manhattan. And yeah, and I am in Manhattan. Because part of my work takes place in Manhattan, Lower Manhattan, and it works really well for me. But as you know, everyone doesn't work in Manhattan. Everybody can't get a job in Manhattan. So if you live in New Jersey and work in New Jersey, you don't have the options to take public transit and to ride your bike. And that's tragic to me because this place is too dense to not have that as an option.
And I used to love riding my bike when I was a kid. Like like the 80s, like BMX bikes, like, I think of like the opening scene for ET with all the kids like riding their bikes over hills and everything like that. Like, that's how it was in my town where I grew up, and I loved riding my bike around. And when I was living with my ex-husband, and it was in the same county, so similar area, Warren County, New Jersey, very rural, very wooded. I got myself a bike. I put it together myself. I was very proud of myself. I went for a ride one day, and I stopped real quick to like adjust something, and a creepy old man came down his road, and he said, "Oh, you look like a damsel in distress." And I said, "No, I'm fine." Like, just adjusting my brake. And I turned around back and I went back home, and I never rode my bike again. I never rode it again.
This is something I've already talked about. I'm like, you're trying, like when they do the thing and they make people ride their bikes down these side streets and down the safe streets. I'm like, do you understand that for a woman, for a person that, for a woman, for a trans person, for someone who is not like, who's not a cisgendered man, side streets aren't safer. Like, okay, it's safer in a way in regards to maybe the traffic is less, but it's not safer because if you don't have those eyes in the street. And I think I wrote about that once where I talked about, hey, guess what? The side street's not safer for me. It's safe. It feels safer for me to be on a major street. And that is the kind of, that's the kind of advocacy that we need. And we're just not getting that kind of advocacy and anywhere, whether it be Los Angeles, whether it be New York, whether it be New Jersey. You're advocating for only like cisgender middle-class men. You're not helping us. You are useless in many ways. And I shouldn't say that. I didn't mean that in like people are useless. I'm just saying in general, I wish you would take us into consideration. Pretend like this is not just about guys riding their bike, and pretend like, not pretend, like over 50% of the people who are essentially not driving are women, are children, are seniors, are disabled people. And think about how we get around. Think about if you're in a wheelchair. Do you really need to want to ride your bike? Not ride your bike, but you really want to like going up a side road or go up this weird hill? Or would you rather be on, I think something is great, and we're going to kind of close out with that. But in Las Vegas, they have it so you can use your little power scooter. If you're a senior, you have to use your power scooter in the bike lane.
Oh, I love that. That's great.
Yeah, my mom's like, you could use your scooter. My mom does not have a scooter, but she thinks it's neat that you could use your scooter on the bike lane. And I'm like, if we had a protected bike lane, that's an option. We have a lot of seniors out here. I mean, especially it's not even about a lot of seniors. We have a lot of baby boomers out here, and they don't want to admit it, but that means that they're a senior.
There's a nursing home like 2 blocks away from my house on a main street that I live near. And I see, residents of nursing homes are free to come and go. And I see a lot of people like huffing across the street, like with their wheelchairs and like walkers and everything like that. And it's like, it makes me so anxious as a nurse. Like sometimes I want to like get out of my car and be like, here, let me help you. Like, everybody seems very patient. But it's very nerve-wracking. And I see that a lot. I see a lot of disabled people in wheelchairs huffing along down side streets, on ramps, off ramps, like trying to get to places. Like, and it makes me so upset to see that.
That's what I'm saying. The infrastructure that we have, we can't have infrastructure that's just taking cars into consideration. We have to take into consideration seniors, disabled people, people with children, people who have groceries, people who just can't walk very fast. And think about like, what, make it so they have options that doesn't involve a car. It doesn't involve, them waiting for somebody to pick them up. And with that, we're really excited to go to the New Jersey Bike Walk Conference on November 29th. We can't wait to go and see what they're talking about now. And we highly respect the work that they're doing. They're doing great work advocating for people. And that's all. So thank you guys all for listening. So anything else, Kimberly?
That is it. Thank you so much for listening, and have a happy St. Patrick's Day.
Exactly. Happy St. Patrick's Day. It's a real holiday here. No.